Most people believe that routine health checkups are always the right thing to do, especially as we grow older. But what if this is not entirely true? What if, beneath the surface, many of these medical decisions are not purely rational, but deeply driven by unconscious fears, particularly the fear of death? Carl Jung once said, "Man's task is to become conscious of the contents that press upward from the unconscious." And perhaps one of the most powerful unconscious forces in old age is the desperate attempt to escape the inevitable, not through wisdom, but through control. We chase endless tests. We demand more answers, and we submit our bodies to machines that promise to predict what life will throw at us. But in doing so, are we truly protecting life, or are we denying the deeper psychological process of aging? As the book of Ecclesiastes reminds us, there is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die. Ecclesiastes 3:1-2. But we often refuse to accept that the season of life eventually shifts from prevention to preparation, from fighting to understanding. In this video, we will explore not just the physical dangers of excessive medical screening after 70, but the psychological traps we fall into when we chase certainty at all costs. We will walk through 5 common medical checkups that seniors are often told they must have, but which may bring more harm than benefit. We will see how our unconscious fear of death disguises itself as medical responsibility, and how even well-meaning doctors can become agents of our denial. But most importantly, we will learn how to listen to what our bodies and our psyches are truly asking for in this stage of life. Let's begin with the first, the colonoscopy trap. For decades, the colonoscopy has been praised as the gold standard in colon cancer prevention. In our 50s and 60s, this screening saves lives. But past the age of 70, particularly for those without symptoms or family history, the colonoscopy can quietly become a ritual of overprotection and even a subtle form of self-harm. Why does this happen? Jung would tell us that as we age, our focus should gradually shift from the material to the spiritual, from the outer world to the inner world. But many people remain trapped in the youthful mindset of fighting disease at all costs. They have not made peace with the archetype of the sage, the wise elder who accepts the limits of life and walks gracefully toward their twilight years instead. They remain in the hero's archetype, forever battling, forever conquering. But the hero's journey is meant to end. If it doesn't, the hero transforms into the tyrant, a shadow form that cannot surrender. When we cling to colonoscopies and aggressive screenings beyond their time, we are often not being careful, we are being tyrannized by our own unconscious fear. The colonoscopy itself is no small procedure. It demands a full bowel preparation, deep sedation, and the insertion of a scope that, for younger adults, is already physically taxing. For older adults, the risks escalate rapidly. Severe dehydration, dangerous electrolyte imbalances, and sedation effects that linger, causing confusion, dizziness, and serious falls. Here's where the story of George becomes essential. George, 82 years old, active, mentally sharp, and symptom-free, was convinced to undergo a routine colonoscopy. During the bowel prep, George became severely dehydrated after the procedure. He was groggy and confused. That same night, he fell at home and fractured his hip. This one medical decision, the one that was supposed to protect him, led to months of painful rehab, overwhelming stress, and significant medical bills. The irony, his colonoscopy revealed nothing. No cancer, no dangerous polyps, nothing that would have harmed him. Jung would call this a misalignment between the conscious and unconscious mind. George's conscious mind believed he was doing the responsible thing, but his unconscious mind, driven by a deeper fear of death, pushed him into a decision that ultimately diminished his quality of life. The Bible speaks to this tension as well. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it. But whoever loses their life from me will find it. Matthew 16:25. Sometimes, in the desperate attempt to save ourselves from death, we create suffering where none needed to exist after age 70. Particularly in the absence of symptoms, it is not only reasonable, it is wise to say no to colonoscopies. Today, there are safer, non-invasive stool tests that can offer sufficient monitoring without putting the body through intense physical strain. The right path is not always the one with the most intervention. It is the one that respects the delicate balance between care and overreach. There is a Jungian lesson here. More is not always better. In fact, sometimes more is the defense mechanism of a mind unwilling to face its shadow, the fear of aging, the terror of death, and the illusion of control. Healthcare should serve life, not control it. Let's move now to the second mistake, the full body scan illusion. There is something profoundly tempting about the idea of a full body scan. The promise is seductive, a machine that can see through you from head to toe, catching hidden diseases before they become threats. It sounds like wisdom, like prevention, but for many seniors, it's not wisdom, it's entrapment. The problem is that full body scans, especially CT and MRI scans, are incredibly sensitive. They pick up everything, including harmless abnormalities that would never harm you or shorten your life. These findings, called incidentalomas, often lead to a cascade of additional tests, biopsies, procedures, and sometimes even major surgeries for conditions that may never have progressed. Carl Jung would say that this obsession with scanning the entire body is a form of psychological projection. We project our inner chaos onto the body. We search for the hidden threat not because we are rationally seeking prevention, but because our unconscious mind is demanding reassurance that death is not lurking nearby. But the more we search, the more we find, and the more we find, the more trapped we become in a cycle of fear. The story of Betty perfectly illustrates this. Betty, 78, was a vibrant, active woman who took daily walks and enjoyed a fulfilling life. At a local health fair, she was offered a discounted full-body scan. The scan found a tiny lesion on her kidney, something so small it likely never would have caused harm. But the word lesion activated the unconscious terror. Within a month, Betty was in surgery. The recovery was long, painful, and left her with complications that would linger for the rest of her life. This is not just about over-testing. It is about the psyche's struggle with the inevitable. Since death is unavoidable, Jung said, it is better to accept it. But our modern health system often teaches the opposite. Fight, scan, test, always resist. The Bible offers a parallel warning. Do not be afraid of sudden terror or of the ruin of the wicked when it comes. Proverbs 3:25. Fear is a poor counselor. When fear drives our decisions, especially about our bodies, we can easily fall into medical paths that cost us dearly, not just in money, but in our peace of mind and physical well-being. Full body scans are rarely covered by insurance for a reason. Their value in asymptomatic seniors is weak at best and dangerous at worst. They often deliver not peace of mind, but a lifelong subscription to the medical industrial complex. Instead of chasing every shadow on the screen, we must learn to trust our bodies, to listen to how we feel, to honor the signals that truly matter. This is not medical neglect, it is spiritual discernment. It is choosing life over fear. If you found this video valuable so far, please leave a comment with the number below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Your support helps us create more thoughtful, life-affirming content. We will explore how common heart screenings can lead to unnecessary danger in seniors, and how our psychological patterns of control push us toward interventions that may rob us of the very health we are trying to protect. Let's continue this journey of wisdom together. Let's now turn to the third health checkup that often becomes a hidden danger for older adults: the cardiac stress test. For decades, this test has been a staple in medical checkups for seniors. The idea is simple: place the body under physical stress, usually on a treadmill, and see how the heart responds. If the heart struggles, doctors can intervene early. At first glance, this seems like a logical, even life-saving step. But beneath the surface, this test frequently exposes a much deeper issue: not just physical risk, but psychological distortion. Carl Jung taught us that the human psyche is driven by an innate desire for order, for structure, and for predictability. We long to control life, to create certainty in a world that is fundamentally uncertain. The cardiac stress test, especially in asymptomatic seniors, is often a psychological attempt to seize that control. The irony is that this very desire for control often leads to unintended harm. As we age, our bodies change naturally. Arteries stiffen, blood pressure fluctuates, and electrical signals within the heart evolve. These changes are not necessarily signs of disease, they are signs of life moving forward. Signs of a body gracefully aging. But machines cannot always distinguish between what is disease and what is simply age. The stress test frequently misinterprets these natural changes as dangerous abnormalities, producing what doctors call false positives. These false positives lead to invasive procedures like angiograms, catheterizations, and even stent placements, all based on the assumption that the body is failing when, in fact, it is often functioning just as it should for its age. Consider the story of George, a 74-year-old retired bus driver. George had no chest pain, no shortness of breath, no fatigue, just a routine checkup where his doctor, just to be safe, ordered a cardiac stress test. The results came back borderline enough to trigger fear, enough to send George into a whirlwind of further tests. Within weeks, he was undergoing an angioplasty to treat a blockage that had caused no symptoms. But the story didn't end there. George developed a serious infection at the catheter insertion site. He spent weeks in the ICU, months in rehab, and his quality of life never fully returned. Jung would call this a tragic example of the ego's refusal to surrender. The conscious mind, desperate to maintain power over the body, unknowingly forces the body into harm. In chasing life, we sometimes accelerate suffering. The Bible offers a sobering reminder: do not be wise in your own eyes, fear the Lord and shun evil. This will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones. Proverbs 3:7-8. Sometimes what we call wisdom, excessive testing, endless searching, is not wisdom at all. It is arrogance disguised as care. Leading heart specialists now agree. Routine stress testing in asymptomatic older adults often brings no benefit, but significant risk. It does not prevent heart attacks. It does not extend life. It often leads to more procedures, more medications, more hospital stays, none of which the body asked for. Why, then, do we continue to chase these tests? Because the human mind fears the silence. It fears inaction. It believes that to be healthy, we must always be doing something: testing, scanning, intervening. But Jung reminds us that health is not the absence of disease. It is the balance of mind, body, and spirit. It is the courage to trust the body's rhythms, to discern when action is needed and when restraint is the greater wisdom. Consider the story of Harold, a 76-year-old grandfather from Illinois. Harold felt perfectly fine walking daily, playing with his grandchildren, living fully. But during his annual checkup, his doctor suggested a cardiac stress test, just in case. The test revealed a minor irregularity, which led to a cardiac catheterization. The doctors placed a stent for a blockage that was not causing any symptoms shortly after. Harold developed internal bleeding from the blood thinners prescribed after the stent procedure. He was hospitalized, spent months recovering, and lost the physical vitality he once enjoyed, all from a test he didn't need. Jung would say that Harold was caught in a collective cultural complex or shared unconscious belief that more intervention always equals better health. But this is not truth. It is projection. It is the shadow of a society that worships youth and denies aging. The Bible warns us, who of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life? Matthew 6:27. This is not an invitation to neglect our health. It is an invitation to trust the sacred rhythms of life, to release the compulsive grip on fear. After 70, health care should not be a race to detect every possible threat. It should be a journey of discernment, listening to our bodies, focusing on what we feel, not what machines suggest we might feel in the future. Jung teaches that as we age, the soul longs for integration, not conquest. The war against the body must cease, and the alliance with the self must begin. Practical wisdom for the heart after 70 is simple. Take daily walks, eat balanced meals, manage your stress, stay socially connected, listen to the real signals of your body. These are the quiet, consistent practices that sustain heart health, not machines, not wires, not tests designed for people half your age. Sometimes saying no is the most life-affirming decision you can make. If you're still with us, please comment number 3 below to let me know you're here and engaged. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to do so and activate the notification bell so you don't miss the next parts of this powerful journey. In the next part, we will revisit the dangers of colonoscopies, but from a more profound angle: how the compulsion to repeat tests may stem from an unresolved shadow, a fear of letting go, and the subtle refusal to trust the divine timing of life. Let's keep going. Your journey to true health, physical, emotional, and spiritual, deserves this reflection. Let's return now to the colonoscopy. We've already discussed the physical risks of this procedure in seniors, but there's a deeper, more hidden, dangerous psychological trap that many people fall into without realizing. Why do so? Many older adults continue to pursue colonoscopies after 70, after 75, after already having clean results for years. Why is it so difficult to say no to another test, even when the evidence suggests the risks now outweigh the benefits? The answer, Jung would say, is buried in the shadow, the part of ourselves we refuse to face. At its core, this is not about medical responsibility. It's about the unconscious terror of mortality, a fear so deeply repressed that it disguises itself as prudence, as diligence, as doing the right thing. But what we're often doing is attempting to bargain with death, as if one more scan, one more scope, one more test will buy us safety, will buy us time. The ego whispers, just one more, and I will finally feel secure. But the security never comes. The unconscious knows the truth that no test can save you from the limits of life. The Bible speaks directly to this restless search for control. Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Psalm 90:12. There is wisdom in understanding the season you're in. There is wisdom in knowing when to release the chase. Let's revisit the story of Eileen, a 78-year-old retired school teacher. She had already passed to clean colonoscopies, but her doctor suggested one more, just to be safe. Eileen agreed, unable to resist the law of precaution. During the procedure, her colon was accidentally perforated, a rare but life-altering complication. She survived, but her energy never fully returned, and her independence slowly slipped away. Eileen often said she wished someone had told her the cost of chasing that one more test. You would say that Eileen was caught in the cycle of compulsion, the ego's endless loop of just in case. And what drives this loop is not rational thought, but the shadow of fear. It is the unresolved relationship we have with death. The Bible reminds us, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God." Isaiah 41:10. Yet many people, even those of faith, find it difficult to trust this promise. When it comes to their own bodies, we live in a world that teaches us to trust machines more than our maker. There's also another psychological layer here, our cultural addiction to longevity. Society glorifies those who beat the odds, who live to 100, who defy aging. But Jung's work urges us to step back and ask, is this really what the soul wants? The ego wants to live forever, but the soul seeks meaning. The colonoscopy, when overused, often becomes a ritual of denial, a ritual where we continue to act as if we can outsmart the passing of time. But here's the deeper danger. Colonoscopies are designed to catch polyps that may take 10 to 15 years to develop into cancer. If you are in your late 70s or 80s, those years may never materialize as a threat. Yet, the discovery of a harmless polyp often sets off a chain reaction: more procedures, more surgeries, more sedation, all for something that might never have affected your life. The Bible teaches us that there is a way that appears to be right, but in the end it leads to death. Proverbs 14:12, not physical death alone, but emotional death, spiritual death, the death of peace. Jung would call this psychic inflation, the moment when the ego overruns its rightful boundaries, believing it can micromanage life itself. But the wise elder archetype knows life is not meant to be controlled. It is meant to be honored. Let's return to the physical dangers for a moment. Colonoscopies require full sedation, which the aging brain and liver process far more slowly. Post-operative cognitive dysfunction, persistent confusion, memory loss, and emotional dullness occurs more frequently in older adults after sedation. There's also the harsh bowel preparation. For seniors, this can cause severe dehydration, disrupt electrolytes, and dangerously strain the kidneys. It can even lead to falls, often during the night, when the body is weak and rushing to the bathroom. But beyond these immediate risks is the broader question: what are we actually gaining? After a certain age, clean screenings lose their long-term value. The potential benefit becomes statistically marginal, while the risks, bleeding, perforation, sedation, complications continue to rise. And yet, many continue to pursue these tests. Why? Because to stop feels like surrender. It feels like giving up. But Jung would argue the opposite, saying no, when no is appropriate, is not giving up. It is stepping into the deeper task of aging, conscious acceptance. The ego may rage against this idea, but the soul feels relief. The Bible gives us this wisdom. The righteous flourish like the palm tree and grow like a cedar in Lebanon. They still bear fruit in old age. They are ever full of sap and green. Psalm 92:12-14. Fruitfulness in old age is not measured by how many diseases you can outrun, but by how much peace, joy, and wisdom you can embody. If you find yourself caught in the cycle of just one more test, pause, ask yourself, is this decision driven by my body's signals or by my mind's fear? Will this test genuinely change the way I live, or is it simply feeding the illusion of control? Am I honoring my season, or am I trapped in the shadow of endless resistance? If you're still watching, please comment number for below to let me know you're here and walking with me through these deeper reflections. And if you haven't yet subscribed, please do. It helps us continue bringing these thoughtful Jungian perspectives into the conversation about health and life. In the next part, we will explore how even routine heart tests, those treadmill stress tests we trust so deeply, can become dangerous illusions after 70. We will go even further into the psychological need to do something, and how that compulsion, if left unchecked, can lead us away from wisdom. Let's continue together. Now, let's conclude our journey by examining the final health checkup that often causes more harm than good for seniors: routine cardiac stress tests. The heart is often seen as the very symbol of life itself, its beat, the rhythm of our existence. So, it's natural to want to ensure it is healthy. But what happens when the very tests designed to protect the heart lead to harm for many seniors? Especially those without symptoms like chest pain or shortness of breath. Routine cardiac stress tests can be a trap. As our bodies age, natural changes in the cardiovascular system, arterial stiffness, small plaques, slower recovery appear on tests. Machines cannot differentiate these normal signs of aging from disease. This often results in false positive test results that suggest a problem where none exists. These false alarms lead to further invasive procedures, including angiograms, catheterizations, stent placements, and sometimes even bypass surgeries. These interventions carry serious risks for older adults: bleeding, infections, kidney injury, and prolonged recovery. The procedures can drastically reduce quality of life, as they did for Harold, his 76-year-old grandfather from Illinois. Harold had no symptoms but underwent a routine stress test. A minor irregularity found during the test led to a catheterization and stent placement. He then suffered internal bleeding from blood thinners, was hospitalized, and spent months recovering. Jung would view this as another manifestation of the ego's struggle against the reality of aging. Desperate attempt to maintain youthful control over the body's processes. The ego fights, but the soul seeks harmony. The Bible offers a profound insight here. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Jeremiah 29 minutes and 11 seconds. Trusting this divine plan means understanding when to act and when to rest. Modern cardiology agrees that routine stress testing for asymptomatic seniors often brings more harm than benefit. It doesn't reduce heart attacks or mortality. Instead, it risks creating a cascade of unnecessary interventions. So what should seniors do? The answer lies in symptom-based care. If you experience chest pain, unusual fatigue, dizziness, or shortness of breath, seek medical evaluation. But if you feel steady, active, and well, your body is likely telling a truthful story, one that does not require constant testing. The path to health after 70 is about embracing discernment, the wisdom to say no when appropriate, and yes when necessary. Jung's teachings remind us that aging is a process of integration. It is a journey toward accepting the natural rhythms of life and death, strength and vulnerability, control and surrender. And finally, remember the words from Ecclesiastes 3:1. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. There is a season to act, and there is a season to yield. As you reflect on this, ask yourself, how can I honor my body and mind by choosing wisely? Am I living with courage, embracing life's uncertainties rather than fearing them? How can I nurture my soul as much as my physical health? Thank you for joining this deep exploration of health and psychology through the lens of Jungian thought and biblical wisdom. If this video has inspired you, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave a comment below sharing one insight or action you plan to take for your health after 70. Your engagement not only motivates me but helps build a community of thoughtful individuals striving for balanced, meaningful lives together. Let's continue to uncover the wisdom that lies beneath the surface, embracing not just longer life, but a life filled with purpose, peace, and joy. See you in the next video.